Hi there. Welcome back to part 3 of our How to Draw a Pie Chart in SwiftUI series. In this part, we will focus on the animations, but we will also go further and look into how we can make our pie chart more generic. Making it more generic allows us to not work only with asset classes, but also with different types of data, such as in this case cars. Without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Now here's where we stopped in part 2. We created this chart. At this moment, you can't really interact with them, but you have a drawing and you also have a label for each of these pieces. Now, the first thing we're going to do is animate the chart in a way that whenever the user taps on one of these pieces, it grows or scales up, as you saw in the intro of this video. To do that, we start by creating a state property, like so. And I will call it selected pie chart element. This is going to be our index, so it will take an integer, but in the beginning it can be null, so we will make it optional and pass it nil. Next, we will go into our piece of pie, and after we do the fill, we will add another modifier that is called scale effect. And in here we are going to have a condition that basically checks if the current index is equal to the selected pie chart element. And if that is the case, we want to make sure that it's set to 1.2. Otherwise, we don't want to scale it up. We will just keep it the way it is. So this takes care of the scaling, but we also want to make sure that the scaling is animated. So we're going to create an on tap gesture on our Z stack, like so. And inside of that tap gesture, we are going to create a with animation closure. And here we are going to check if the current index is the same as the selected pie chart element. Now this would be the case if, for example, I tap on bonds and then bond scales up, and then I decide to select bonds again, and that at that moment the index is equal to the selected pie chart element, and I want to scale it back down. And the way I can do it is by simply setting the selected pie chart element to nil, and it will automatically scale it down. So let's do that. Now else, we can set the selected pie chart element equal to the index. So the index is going to be the piece we are drawing at the moment. And whenever one of these is tapped, we are going to set it to the index of the one that we just selected. Now let's see what we got so far. All right. Now the chart is a bit big, so let's change the frame a bit. And to do that, we go down to the parent view, which is our content view. We're simply going to give it a frame. I'm going to give it a 300 times 300. We don't need the alignment. And now let's try it again. Okay, that looks much better. Perfect. Now, if you want, you can also play around with different kind of animations. For example, there is the ease in out that you can give a duration. Let's give it 2 and try it again. So you can see it slows down the animation, and you can play around with different values and pick the one you like. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, now that we got the animation done, let's move to the second part. I want to refactor our code or make it more generic so that we're not limited to a specific type of data. And the way we are going to do that is by introducing a few protocols. Now here we have our asset allocation. That asset allocation has a few informations. But the only relevant information for the pie chart to draw really is the percentage, the color, and the description. So those three properties are really mandatory for the chart. And whenever we create a new type of data, we have to make sure that these three properties are available. And to do that, we will introduce a protocol. And I will name this one chart data providable, like so. And the chart data providable is going to be a set of rules that someone who conforms to this has to satisfy. So when asset allocation satisfies to this, it has to make sure that it has a percentage, and that percentage is going to be of double, and it's going to be a get property. Similarly, we need a description, type string, and lastly, we will need the color. All right, so if we say that asset allocation conforms to the chart data providable, and for example, it didn't implement the percentage, then Xcode would complain about this. As you can see, it will complain, and you can press fix and it will automatically add the percentage for you. But we will leave it like this for now. Okay. Now let's create another one. Let's call this one struct. And I will call it car preference. It's also going to conform to the chart data providable. And obviously we have to provide these three things, otherwise Xcode will complain, which is good. And now it should be fine. Perfect. Next we have to fix our view model to make it also more generic. And the way we are going to do it is, instead of just using this pie chart view model that is bounded to this asset allocation, we will introduce a chart view model protocol. And a chart view model, any view model that wants to be our pie chart view model has to conform to this protocol, and that protocol will force that view model to have an array of chart data providables. So let's do that. Actually, let's move all of our protocols a bit up. So, because they obviously do not belong here. As always, create separate files for these. I'm just doing this so you can better follow with the tutorial. So here we have our chart data providable, and now we are going to introduce the chart view model protocol. Now the chart view model will also conform to the observable object, because if you look into this view model, it also conforms to the observable object. So if we say the pie chart view model conforms to the chart view model, we do not have to do this anymore, because obviously we're already conforming to this protocol. So let's do this. The rule is, whenever someone conforms to the chart view model, it needs to have this array of chart data providable, and it has to be gettable, like so. All right, now let's fix our view model. Our view model is now going to conform to this chart view model. And it's not going to be a pie chart view model anymore. It will be more like an asset view model. We can copy this and create another one for the cars. And also make sure that the data in here is not of type asset allocation anymore. It just has to conform to the chart data providable. And that way we can not only have asset allocation, but we can also have car preferences inside of here. I already created some mock data for the car preferences that I'm just going to paste in here. Let's see what's wrong here. All right, I guess rebuilding resolved it already for us. Let's see what else we got in here. Obviously, this pie chart view model doesn't exist anymore. So what we will do instead is pass any kind of view model into this pie chart, and not only a specific kind of view model. And to do that, we will give it this generic type, and we will say it's going to be the generic type should be of type chart view model, like so. And then in here we are going to say the view model is going to be the generic type we will get. Let's build again. Let's try to run this. Oh, here we go. Okay, now it says, okay, obviously the equal sign doesn't make sense here. So let's change that and build again. All right, now we have only one more error. Okay, now it just wants us to pass in the view model, which is just what we wanted. So here I could say something like cars view model and pass it in here and then resume. And we will see our cars pie chart. And the cool thing now is I could create something like a VStack, and I could just copy this in here like so, and maybe add a spacer in between, or actually let's just leave it like that for now. And here I could say assets view model, and you can see the chart automatically adjusts to the new data type. Perfect. Now there's one more thing I would like to do. Whenever you select on one of these pie chart elements, it would be nice if the content view gets notified as well, so it can basically update its view based on what is currently selected in each of these pie charts. And the way we are going to do it is by simply introducing an action inside of pie chart, like so. And that action is going to be a closure. So what the content view or the parent view will actually get is the chart data providable, and it won't return anything. So we will write void. And then when the selection happens, so not really here because this is where we are resetting it to nil, but here we can then say, oh, here we can then call our action by simply saying action with current data. Now let's see. Okay, now we have to pass. Actually, let's make this optional, because sometimes you don't really need any action. So we do this. And then we have to make sure that we add the question mark after action. And lastly, we can then modify this like so. So the pie chart will now take a view model and an action. The view model is going to be our cars view model. And the action is going to be of type chart data. Basically what we're getting in the closure is going to be chart data providable. So I'm just going to call this one data, or actually let's call it car data. And then let's just print it for now. And similarly, we will have this for the asset pie chart. So asset view model, let's remove that extra space in here. And this is going to be our asset data. And we're also going to print this as well. So let's see if that works. Actually, before you run it, let's also add padding in here. And now we can run and see how it looks like. Nice, here we have our pie charts, and if I click on one of these, you can see I get a car preference. If I would click, for example, on real estate, it would be of type asset allocation. I hope this tutorial was helpful. As always, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get notified when new content arrives. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.